So Paul, for Favor, how long did it take you to write the film, and how many drafts did you go through? What was your process like?
Let's see. With Favor, it didn't take long to write. Actually, I had the idea. Well, to back up to the beginning of it. When you're an indie filmmaker, you write for what you have access to. If you have access to a World War II tank, you write a film with a World War II tank in it. I had access to these two pretty great actors that I knew that I wanted to write something for, Blaine Weaver and Patrick Day. And I finally, at some point, got the brain flash that maybe they would work well together, and I could write something for both of them and kill two birds with one stone. So I came up with the idea for the film pretty quickly. And then I remember I had drinks with Blaine Weaver at the Well in Hollywood, and I pitched him the idea, and just to see what he'd think. And he's like, "Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah." He was very off the cuff, because when someone says, "I'm going to write a screenplay for you, what do you think?" Everybody, that's talk. It doesn't mean anything. But he liked the idea, or at least he seemed to. So that gave me the impetus to start writing it. And I wrote it over a course of a couple of months. It came together pretty quickly. My process is I come up with an idea, I get excited about it, and I tend to write it very quickly. I used to do outlines. I don't do outlines anymore because, unless it's very complicated, because I'll start writing the outline, and I think in so much detail off in the beginning that I'm often trying to write it fast enough before I forget what I'm thinking. So if I start writing an outline, by page 2, it's becoming scenes anyway. Like I keep like scene 1, I'm going to write one word. I'm just going to write one sentence for each scene, and scene 1's this, and scene 2 is this, and scene 3 is this, and scene 4 is this. And now I'm writing scenes. So I just start writing the script. And I try to write very quickly the first draft. I try to write 10 pages a day. Trying to think about it too much, just puke it out. Just blah. I also don't often write in order. So I try to write where I'm excited to write. I'm excited to write this scene, and I just plow through that, and then write this, and then write this. And I kind of already know how it's all going to go together. And when I'm done, I have a first draft within less than 2 weeks. Then I step away from it for a couple of weeks and go back and look at it. And then it's either a lot of work to fix it or a little work to fix it. This one wasn't too bad. I mean, the story never really changed in the first draft. It was a question of kind of going through and making the dialogue not terrible. That was the big thing. So a month and a half of that, of rewriting it, and it was done. We didn't do a lot of changes once it went to the actors. I mean, I think I allowed them on set to, if the dialogue line doesn't feel right, or feels better to say it a different way, go ahead and say it a different way. As long as I still recognize the scene, or the talkback the other actor has doesn't screw that up, then I'm fine with it. So they were able to play a little bit loose with the dialogue, which was great, because then when they improve it, I get to take credit. But it came together pretty pretty. For this one in particular, some scripts I struggled with, like Tantulina I struggled with for months, but this one was pretty fast.
So do you ever struggle with that, where you're like, that sounds too written, that like somebody wouldn't really say that, they would just be like, instead of, well, I think you're wrong, and let me.
I think I've gotten. That's something you obviously work on, is making sure that characters speak like characters, not like don't speak perfectly. The subtext of a scene comes out. I've gotten pretty good with that in terms of, what the character says versus what the character means. The trick is making it not sound clumsy. It's like, and often it's a question of like sitting back and kind of speaking it in your head or speaking it out loud and making it, so what would it normally sound like? Not make it sound too perfectly written in terms of the sentence construction, make it sound more conversational, but also not clumsy or falling over a bad pun, or it's a question of just rewriting it. I haven't had too much trouble with people speaking perfectly for a while, fortunately. That was something I had to work on pretty early on in the career, because they just here's what I mean, blah. It's super obvious.
Right. Well, it seems like a lot of stuff lately has become more like that, whereas we were talking about What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Right. And sometimes you just see Johnny Depp, and he wouldn't even have to say a word. He just kind of raised an eyebrow, and it spoke volumes. And I don't know, I miss those movies. But
well, that's go back to Breaking Bad. That was one of the best things about that show, is that every scene's got 3 or 4 layers in it, and the characters are saying something, they mean like 3 different things, and what they're saying is so often not what they mean. I think it's great. I hope we accomplish that in Favor, because I feel like a lot of that movie is about these two guys who have been friends for a long time, and they're not really friends. They don't really have anything in common. They're friends more out of habit and the idea of being friends. Mm. It hasn't been tested. Like they both started in the same place when they were kids, and now one's here and one's here. They have really nothing else in common with each other, but they still call themselves friends. And there's been nothing really to test the connection. And when this favor is asked for, it all gets tested, and the pretense of their friendship slowly falls away. They slowly like, no, we're buddies. Do this favor, and it takes a good hour and a half of the film before it really just is like, we're not friends. So that was a lot of dancing around the subtext.
And so obviously you've got a very full life yourself. Where are you doing this writing? Because I know sometimes at home it's so difficult. You've got kids, animals, phones.
The editing I do at home, and I have to carve out time for that. Usually it's out of my sleep. The writing, though, that's the beauty of the laptop. You can go anywhere. So if you're trying to write quickly and trying not to think too much, I do need a quiet space. I can't write at Starbucks. I can't do that whole LA thing. There's too much going on. But if I get hired to edit, and I have downtime in the editing room where it's just me. So it's just like I crack at that laptop and I can just shoot through it. Again, go fast. It's harder to find time to edit what I've written and reread it and rewrite it, because that requires more focus than just being in the moment and kind of shooting through it that way.